Hello, welcome to Art and Aspergers podcast, episode 1. Hi, it's been a while. This Art and Aspergers concept started as a blog, back in 2011, I think. But my last entry in that blog was March 2016, so it's been a while. My name's Kate Kent, by the way. I've been thinking about doing this podcast for a while. I've had videos on my YouTube channel of the same name, Art and Aspergers. It was like a vlogging style, but they were pretty bad, and the quality was pretty terrible. I think I just watched too much YouTube and I got inspired, but so I thought podcast sounds great because I can sit in my messy studio in my pajamas, don't have to stress about how I look on camera. I can just talk to you. So, and I've always liked the idea of being like a radio announcer. I loved doing that when I was a kid, like pretending. I would get my cassette recorder out and I would pretend that I was a radio announcer, and I would grab my Spice Girls recording off the radio and record that again. So there's a one player playing, and then I press record on the other one, and of course it was terrible, but it was fun. And I remember even doing a similar project in school, and we got really good marks because it was something I loved to do. It wasn't a project for me. It was fun. It wasn't homework at all. So I love that. I talk to myself a lot. I joke that I like the sound of my own voice, in that I talk to myself all the time, and I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just record it? But that's what a podcast is. It's just people talking, unedited for the most part. Although if you do hear random, what sounds like it's been edited, it's because sometimes, because our computer needs to be upgraded, the Pro Tools program I'm using will sometimes randomly stop working, which is awesome, but I think I've fixed it now, so we'll see how we go. So welcome to the podcast. Probably all two of you that'll be listening, but that's fine. That's cool. So for those of you that don't know, this started as a blog years ago, and it's called Art and Aspergers because I'm on the autism spectrum. I was diagnosed with Aspergers when I was 6 years old. I'm now 30. The blog tagline used to be Musings of a 20-something Aspie girl, but now I'm in my 30s, so now it's 30 Musings of a 30-something Aspie woman, because I feel weird calling myself a girl now that I'm 30. It doesn't feel right, even though I act more like a child than not most of the time. So the blog, it's artandaspergers.wordpress.com if you wanted to check it out. But it's pretty, I don't know, some of it's pretty, angsty. You'd think it was a 16-year-old that wrote it, and she's, 26. It's some of it's a bit why is that on the internet? But whatever. So there's poetry, song lyrics that I've put into songs. I'm a songwriter, FYI. I call myself that, but I've released one EP in 2014. But that did get some radio airplay, so yeah, I'm a songwriter. I've been paid royalties, a whole $6. So, that's legit. That's totally legit. So the blog was about my Aspie experiences a lot of the time. I talk about anxiety or meltdowns, what it's like as an adult, because there's a lot of stuff online for parents with kids with autism, or what do they call it now? Autism spectrum disorder. They don't even call it Asperger's anymore. That's not even a thing. But that's what I've always called it. That's what it's always been to me. But yeah, whatever you want to call it. High functioning autism, basically. And I was on the mild end of the scale with Asperger's, so I'm very high functioning. But so a lot of people just kind of think, oh, Kate's just a little odd. But But there is a label for my oddness. And it's funny, though, these days everyone has a label for everything they want to put themselves. It's funny, people are like, oh, don't put me in a box, but they want to find a box to put themselves in. They want to find a label for it. Thing is, people are people, and an expert told me I had Asperger's and told my mum had Asperger's, so my mum went and researched a lot of it, and she was very good with trying to understand me, basically. And she did a flippin'. I think she understands me better than I understand myself. She's amazing. But anyway, I digress. There'll be a lot of digressions. That's a word in this podcast. Just FYI, I tend to go on tangents. It's kind of part of the reason why I wanted to do a podcast, because to kind of see where my brain's going. It kind of goes everywhere. As a creative person, I guess that happens because I think out loud, and the mind tends to not think on the same line all the time, and I verbalize everything I'm thinking, which can get me into trouble sometimes. I've learnt to kind of maybe don't say that. So yes, that's what the blog started. I think 2011, and that was when my now husband and I we were dating at that point. Yeah, well, I think we were engaged by then. Yeah, I think that's part of what inspired me in the first place. Like, person with Asperger's getting married, especially because for a long time my parents didn't think I would get married. Not in a bad way. I don't think. They just assumed that I was going to do things a little differently, and I do things a little differently. But there are some, I guess, conventions in life that I have followed that has even surprised me. But the reason I am married is because I found the right person. He's incredibly patient, which is very important. So I've talked a little bit about my vlogs already. So it was a blog which then developed into vlogs, but I didn't do them very often, and they were bad. And I was always worried about I'd put makeup on and try to look not rubbish. And they just were bad. So I thought, you know what, let's do a podcast. And I'm sorry if I mumble, by the way, I'm trying not to. Which is part of the reason why I didn't really pursue the whole radio announcer thing, because I do tend to do that. But when I'm in a position where I do need to speak clearly, I do try and concentrate more on doing that. So I hope you can understand what I'm saying. So as I mentioned, I do write songs. I'm a vocalist. I've actually recently started doing lyrics critique on Fiverr as a service. So if you write songs and you write lyrics, but you're not so sure if they work very well, or you've got some lyrics with potential, but they're not quite where you want them to be, that's the service I provide. Is I'll critique your lyrics. I'll be like, okay, this is what's working, this is what's not working. Here's a suggestion on how it can be better. And you can even, I'll write up a whole new set of lyrics, depending on how much needs work and how much doesn't. And you can then use them, and you don't have to credit me. You just pay me the $10 US, and we're golden. So that's Fiverr. Was it Fiverr? So FIVERR.com/Kate Lyrics. So KATELYRICS. If you want to check that out. So that's something I've started doing recently, and it's really fun. I really enjoy it. I enjoy it more than writing my own lyrics, actually, because I've already got a starting point. I don't even have to work that hard, really. Because I realized I was always complaining about songs on the radio, how terribly written they are, and how lazily written they are, and it infuriated me. And I thought, you know what, instead of just being annoyed about that, how about I help other songwriters write better lyrics? And I love it. It's really fun. I really enjoy it, and I get a kick out of I see what they're doing here, but here's how we can make it even better. Because I get a kick out of it because it's fun, and I'm also helping somebody else realize their dream. Because it's not just I'm not just gonna be like, oh, your lyrics suck. You're a terrible writer. It's not like that at all. I'm not gonna be nasty. But it's like I see what's good. I'm like, oh, like I love what you've done there. How about we build on that here? How about we build some more imagery here, and then we can get to this part of the song later. Like I think a lot of weaknesses with lyrics, a lot of people tell too much of the story too early, and so I try to help them like string it out a bit more. I'm like, okay, how about we just think of it like a movie? This is what my lecturer back when I was in creative arts college, he was talking about, think of songwriting like a movie, and I really resonated with that. That you have an introduction, they set the scene, so you set the scene, and then you start telling your story, and then you get your conflict in there, and then you got your resolution. But you don't, although in songwriting you don't have to have a resolution. The great thing about songwriting is you can leave it hanging if you want, and have the listener interpret it as they will. But anyway, again, digressing. But that's again, that's a genius thing that my husband suggested. Like, how about you put yourself on Fiverr? Like, we discovered this website. And we're like, how about you do that? Because there's a ton of people who write lyrics for you. So I'm like, well, there's already 20,000 people doing that. But I think critiquing lyrics, it still empowers the writer to then... It's not like, oh, let me just do it for you. I'm giving them tools to improve what they've already got. So they're not, then they can still write. And they can take it or leave it. They might decide that my lyrics aren't what they wanted, aren't what they were going for, or they could take bits and pieces of what I've suggested, but then still keep some of their stuff if they want, like it's their song, they can do what they like. But yeah, I get a real kick out of it. I found it really, like, I was surprised how much fun, I have with doing that. Like, anyway, so yeah, I'm on Fiverr if you wanted to check that out. So yeah, back to the blog so I have a blog and I had a Facebook page as well. It still exists, Art and Aspergers on Facebook. So it's just facebook.com/Art and Aspergers, ARTANDASPERGERS. Now mostly I just put like other like articles that come my way, because I'm friends with a lot of people who have kids with autism or people who work in mental health or whatever, and people will post articles, and so I'll share them on that page. That's mostly what I've been doing for the last 12 months on that page. It's barely been touched. But I wanted to bring new life to it, and I thought, let's start a podcast. But I'm kind of like, what am I going to talk about? I'm just going to talk about the same things that I've talked about before. But as with the blog, I love your suggestions or questions. I also talk about my faith a lot in the blog, and I'll be talking about that in this podcast because it's such a huge part of why I am who I am. And a lot of people will come and ask me like, I wouldn't have picked that you're on the autism spectrum. Why? Like, how is that even possible? Like, and it's because I've come a long way, and a lot of that's to do with my faith and my relationship with Christ, and how that's changed me and made me a more confident person and more, I guess, more of a part of the community and more community minded, because humans are selfish, generally speaking, but people on the spectrum tend to be even more like closed in and within their own world, and they have a hard time breaking out of that. And to be a Christian is to love other people and to connect with other people, and through church life and through my own personal relationship with Christ, I've learned to do that better, and that's meant that I'm less of an anxious person, and I have meltdowns less because of that. But I'll talk about that in more detail in another podcast. But so that's something that I'll talk about in the blog and on my vlogs a bit. Talk about friendships, relationships, and actually, I think for a while there, I was quite depressed during the times that I was blogging. I was never like diagnosed with anything, so I can't be like, oh yeah, I was this. But I think the early years of my marriage, just trying to figure that out, trying to figure out how married life works, even though I have such a great example in my parents. But neither of them are on the spectrum, so I guess that's a whole other thing. So anyway, yeah, the another thing that I did talk about a lot well, not a lot, but every now and then would come up in my blog and in my vlogs. I would perch him up on the camera. Our neighbour's cat, Chester, he was a ginger cat. He was very old. He was just very sweet. He would come over. Of course, we started feeding him, so he would come over all the time, and we just fell in love with him. Luke and I just fell in love with this cat, and he started to feature in my blogs, and on Instagram and stuff. I call him Chester the Wonder Cat. He passed away October 2015. He passed away, it might have been September, but around about then he died. And it was really sad because we loved that cat. We treated him like he was our own. Our neighbour would like apologise, like, "Oh, sorry if the cat's annoying you." We're like, no, he's great. We love him. He would hang out in our house for like hours. And he would just sleep mostly because he was old and didn't care. But he was really sweet. And because I had a bit of a tumultuous relationship with cats before Chester. Like, we had cats when I was really young. I don't remember much about them. I don't know whether they treated me badly or I treated them badly. Probably both. But I do, my earlier memories of cats is they would attack me and scratch me, but I was probably a bit of a dick to them, to be honest. So yeah, my feelings towards cats was kind of indifferent. But then Chester came along and I was like, oh, cats are actually really sweet. And so we wanted to adopt one of our own. Our landlord's super cool. He was like, yeah, you get yourself a cat, because he's had plenty of animals, and so he had no problem with us having an indoor cat. So, and we don't have any carpet in our house and stuff, so there wasn't much for her to rip apart. So we went to the shelter July last year, and we adopted Chrissy, and she's just the sweetest cat you'll ever meet in your entire life. She's just really sweet, really playful, she's really calming for me. If I'm anxious, I'll cuddle her and she's super calm. She'll start purring, and those vibrations really help calm me down. She's very therapeutic for me, and she's just the sweetest thing. She doesn't attack it. The only time she'll only ever try and attack you if you're rubbing her belly. That's it. That's the only time she'll ever do that. So as long as you don't go for her belly, she's not gonna hurt you. If she's scared of you, she'll run away. She won't try and attack you. She's very, very sweet. And so because of Chester, and if you've seen my Facebook pages, I've had photos of Chester. I haven't actually put photos of Chrissy on there yet, but she does have her own Instagram. Cat Chrissy Lady. And it's the same name for her Facebook page as well. I'm one of those people who has a Instagram for the cat. She's a tabby. She's got the white chest, white socks, green eyes, and she's got the pink little toes. She's so cute. She's 3. So she's the closest thing my husband and I have to a child at this point in our lives. And she's very cute. So I'll very likely talk about Chrissy's shenanigans in this podcast. So, yeah, that's an intro, I guess, as to what to expect on this podcast. If there's anything you want me to talk about Aspergers as an adult, or my experiences as a child, there is a lot of that on the blog. But as I said, it's kind of angsty and weird, some of it, and I'm kind of embarrassed by it. So feel free to not read them. That's also fine. But yeah, ask me, send me join the Facebook page, or like make comments on SoundCloud or wherever I'm going to post this on. I haven't 100% decided yet. Should be SoundCloud and iTunes, and I'll probably put it on YouTube as well. Send me your comments, your questions. I'd love to answer them. I love to do like Q&A stuff, but I'll probably just ramble on about stuff. So if you're happy to listen to someone ramble on, because I'll do that a lot, all the time, every day. So at least I feel like my rambling has a purpose doing this, and I don't know why I haven't done this like years ago, but anyway, I'm doing it now. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being patient, listening to this rambling crazy lady. I've kind of touched I've kind of scratched the surface of a lot of stuff that I'll go into more detail on in the podcast, but I just wanted to give you like an idea of basically what to expect if you wanted to keep listening to this and following it. I'll talk about other things to do with my, because I do write songs and stuff, but my main job, which I don't think I mentioned before, is I'm a checkout chick essentially / supervisor. That's what I do to pay the bills. And for those of you who are on the spectrum, if you're on the spectrum and you work in retail, you'll understand the challenges that comes with that being on the spectrum. It can be challenging. For the most part, it's pretty good. It's fine. But, human beings and retail tend to be an interesting mix, and especially dealing with customer service as a supervisor, like having to deal with issues can be problematic sometimes. But I hope I've improved over the years. It was kind of a position that was kind of thrust upon me that I didn't really want, but I haven't had too many dramas, so it's been pretty good. It's not the worst job in the world. There's way worse jobs, but it does have its challenges. So I'd have to obviously tread lightly, and I won't mention what company I work for because that would be stupid. But yeah, it can have its challenges. So even just to encourage other people who have to deal with that kind of stuff. But I think a lot of people who are neurotypical have have their struggles. Just people who are introverted who have to work in retail. I feel your pain, brother. Like I understand. But so that's another thing I'll probably talk about. But again, I'll have to tread lightly and be careful. But yeah, I'll try to do that in a non-ranty way. That'll get me in trouble. So yeah, that's me. That's a rough idea of what the podcast will be about. I'm sorry. I've kind of I have everything written in front of me, but I also know I've rambled a bit. So yeah, thanks for listening, and I'll try and do this on a weekly basis. Try being the operative word. Yeah. Let's see how this goes. Let's see if I can even post this. It's gonna be successful. Yeah, alright, so I'll chat to you guys later. Bye bye.